Good morning, noon, afternoon, and evening to everybody, depending on when you will see this video. Either way, I hope you're having a good day. It's been a challenge for me, particularly this week. Ho, ho, ho. I guess I'll go backwards a little bit. I woke up today and I'm thankful for that. Waking up is always a good thing, right? Whether you say yes or no is of little matter to me. I say that it is, because it means that there's another opportunity to get right what you got wrong yesterday, continue to pursue the things that you couldn't fully pursue yesterday because there wasn't enough time in the day to do it all, as most of us, or to ponder what maybe will come tomorrow when you're striving for the same thing. Maybe, just maybe, you're also thinking, I don't want to be here anymore. It's not worth it anymore. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who has a nephew who I've known since he was about 7, 8 years old. he does not want to be here anymore. And as I listened to her talk, she explained to me that he wants to take his life. And she said to him, and most of us have probably said this to somebody at some time, and I think I've thought the same thing until as of late. Taking your life is the most selfish thing that you could ever do. And I disagree. In part. Because I don't know why somebody would want to take their life other than they're unhappy with the current existence of their own life. But I said to her, well, I don't think that people who decide that they want to take their lives is because they're hopeless. It's actually the opposite of that. And for anybody watching this who said, well, how would you know? Who may get into all of their all of their feelings, because I've been there too, more times than one. I think if you or we or I want to take our life, it's not because we are hopeless. It's that we have a hope that things will get better if we just wake up on the other side, or we won't wake up at all. Things will be better. Well, there's hope in that statement, in that thought process. You hope things will stop hurting so much. You hope that, say for instance, those who have been after you or creating such torment for you will cease to exist in your world. You hope things will be better. But in reality, that's not the answer. We have to find out and figure out a way to point that out with grace and care, and figure out, what do you hope now? And how do we find that hope? And how do we extract that hope so that you may see it for what it is? And you also may extract and see the ending of your life for what it is. Just that, the ending of hope. As long as I and you and us have breath in our lungs, we do have hope. It may not feel like it. I know. It doesn't always feel hopeful in this world. It surely doesn't always feel hopeful in this world as it is now. But sometimes, even after this craziness that we're going through right now, things can and may get better, but that doesn't mean that we'll always feel hopeful. We'll just be in a different place. So as I was talking to my friend, I said, remind him, her nephew, that you do have hope. It is on this side of existence. And we just got to work a bit harder to find it. Anyway, it was just an interesting conversation that I had, and I just wanted to share with you some of my thoughts on it. And now, I've got to get to the right chapter, right? So I'm reading all these different books. I like to read. I like to educate myself. I like to listen and understand and ... For some of you watching right now, maybe you don't know this. And some people do, because I probably have talked about it. One of the things that I deal with, I'll turn around. See this kind of right here, from right here to... I have a brain injury, traumatic brain injury, acquired brain injury. And so I live with challenge every single day of my life, like everybody else, but for different reasons. And so, things are hard. Sometimes, some days are harder than others, and other days are easier than others. But regardless, they are difficult. My parrot, I have a yellow-sided conure named Penelope. And yes, she is a Penelope. I had a DNA test done about 1.5 years ago to make sure. And sure enough, Penelope is not a Paul. At any rate, I'm reading this book. Oh, there we go. I didn't use it. It's called What is the Gospel by Greg Gilbert. Oop, try not to. Here we go. Bam. And I like to read. I like to take in information. Something that a lot of people can't do effectively. And thank God, literally, he saved my life and has allowed me to use my brain as effectively as possible. So I and a group of young men are going through this book, and I just thought that it was a really cool intro to the second chapter in this book. It's called God, the Righteous Creator. And I'm going to change up my voice a little bit and read it how it's written, because often people have treated God this way. I mean, you look at cartoons and you look at comic strips, or you read a book. And how I'm going to read this is how we kind of idealize God, or kind of philosophize or theorize God. And unfortunately, it's often how the church has has done it because we want so badly to be led by the culture. And so we put culture before the cross and not the cross before the culture. If we put the cross before the culture, it means that we're bearing our cross and pointing people to Jesus, the one anointed Messiah and true God. At any rate, I'm going to read this. Clear my throat. Let me introduce you to God. Note lowercase g. You might want to lower your voice a little before we go in. He might be sleeping now. He's old, and doesn't much understand or like this newfangled modern world. His golden days, the ones he talks about when you really get to know him and he really gets going, were a long time ago, before most of us were even born. That was back when people cared what he thought about things and considered him pretty important to their lives. Of course, all that's changed now, though, and God, poor fellow, just never adjusted very well. Life's moved on and passed him by. Now, he spends most of his time just hanging in the garden out back. I go there sometimes to see him, and there we tarry, walking and talking softly and tenderly among the roses. You know, those beautiful roses. Anyway, a lot of people still like him, it seems. Or at least he manages to keep his poll numbers pretty high. And you'd be surprised how many people even drop by to visit and ask for things every once in a while. But of course, that's all right with him. He's here to help. Thank goodness. The crankiness you read about sometimes in his old book, having the earth swallow people up, raining fire down on cities, that sort of thing. All that seems to have faded in his old age. Now he's just good-natured, low-maintenance friend who really is easy to talk to. Especially since he almost never talks back. And when he does, it usually is to tell me through some slightly weird sign that what I want to do regardless is all right by him. That really is the best kind of friend now, isn't it? The best thing about him, though, he doesn't judge me. Ever. For anything. Oh, sure, I know that deep down he wishes I'd do better. That I'd be more loving, less selfish, and all that, but he's realistic. He knows I'm human and nobody's perfect. And I'm totally sure he's fine with that. Besides, forgiving people is his job. It's what he does. After all, he's love, right? And I like to think of love as never judging, only forgiving. That's the God I know. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, all right. Hold on a second. Yeah. Oh, Okay, we can go in now. And don't worry, we don't have to stay long. Really. He's grateful for any time that he can get. You see, I, we, us, that's really how often we see God. I remember back in the day when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, right? I would go with my mom to church in the South. Oh man, and it's probably to a degree the same, a little bit, not so much. There's some churches I've been to now, but you would go to church and you'd be there for like 5, 6, 24, 48, 72 hours. You would be there a long time on Sundays. And generally, the only reason why you would go to church is to go to the buffet after. I knew as a kid, especially with church in the South, that if I went to church, that we were going to eat after. And Sunday was the best time because that meant you got to eat on Sundays. I mean, you got to eat. So it was worth spending all the time that I would have been at home, probably sleeping, playing with toys, or watching TV, or sleeping, to go eat. And that's really what we still do. We have an immature view of the gathering of the bride based on going to fulfill our own desires. And so now, because we as a society have such a short attention span, we've generally cut time at church down to 2 hours, hour and a half, and that half hour includes the sermon. 30 minutes or 40 minutes, depending on what kind of church you may go to, 30 to 40 minutes is the music, the entertainment. 10 minutes is the introduction or the announcements and maybe a little funny joke or whatnot, meet and greet. And then we leave. Man, wasn't that a great sermon? That was so good. And not saying that sermons can't be good within a 30-minute time period. And what's the last thing you hear when you leave? See you next week. It's like going to the club. All right. See you next Friday or Saturday, or depending on the week and the month. I'll see you on Thursday because there's that special thing going on. And we go and we come to church as if we're going to the geriatric house. As if we're doing God some huge favor by going to church in a building and yet not being transformed in our heart and mind because we are the church, the bride, even apart from the building. You know. I just find it so interesting that that's how I have treated church in the past, and how a lot of us treat church now, and a lot of people will continue to treat church into the future. The organized church. Now, I don't have anything necessarily against the organized church. We meet in a building, and I'm thankful for that. I really am. However, at some point into our history, or not history, into our future, And just some reality now that churches are closing left and right around this nation. We won't be meeting in the church building. We will be the church meeting in homes, as some even do now and some have done over the centuries. And then maybe it will switch us back to where being the bride, the church, called and collected, will be so much more emphasized. I used to be a part of this church in Alaska, and I was a part of the worship team in Alaska. I've been a part of several worship teams. I like that. I enjoy it. I play harmonica. In this particular worship team in Alaska, there was a leader named Lance. And Lance, he came in and he said to us all, he said, "Man, I'm really excited to be here and I really want to get to know you and dot, 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 dot." And I had been in a church that like met everybody with this enthusiasm of hollow platitudes. Like, "Man, you're so great," and da 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 da. And the follow through really sucked. And quite honestly, I had been hurt, not by this one church, but by a couple, and not the church in total. Let me make that distinction. That is that there's churches where there's singular people that can do some hurtful things that are hurtful. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater, the essence, is a mistake of anybody who is hurt, including myself. So, at any rate, jumping back on. So I stopped Lance and I said, "Bro, don't flatter me. If this is what you mean, then let's do that. I'm down with that. I would love to do that. But if it's not, then keep on walking, bro." And thankfully, he meant it. And we began to play together as a worship team, the singers, the instrumentalists, and one day we came across an issue that we were having. We've been just playing music. We've just been playing the notes. We've been practicing and how many courses are we going to do? Which song are we going to do? What's going to flow with what? The whole lineup. And one day it became so obvious to us, all of us, it's not even about the music. It's about being together and worshiping the God we serve. And a change happened. We started meeting together, and quite honestly, we organized a way to meet, throughout the week. But after a few times of meeting, it became more organic. Now, our organization has its place. It does. That's order. But then also the organic, just the natural meeting. And we would meet more and more and more. We would love on each other, play music, worship, laugh, talk, play games. There were some days of the week, or some weeks in the month, where we didn't have the opportunity to meet at all. And we would show up on Sunday morning and, what are we going to play? Let's pick some songs. Sometimes the songs were songs we hadn't even heard or played together yet. But you know what? We were able to pick up and just play together because we knew each other. We loved each other. And we loved worshiping with each other. It was the bride. And it was authentic. Now, I'm not saying that the organized church is not authentic. That's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of authenticity even in the organized church. What I am saying, though, is when we fail to miss either or, and either or becomes the prominent, organized, or organic, that we do indeed miss the balance. At any rate, over time that ended up stopping because there was some heresy going on. Unfortunately, from one of the leaders. At any rate, we didn't mind spending hours with each other. We didn't mind spending hours at church together. We didn't mind spending that time because we desired it. We longed for it. God wasn't an old man that needed us or was just hard of hearing or wanted us to just be happy with being happy. God didn't become real. He revealed himself for who he is. And our hearts began to worship in that and worship him in that. My desire for the bride all over the world, especially in the Western world, is that we begin not focusing on what I get out of it, what's going to be my meal on the Sundays, or oh, here we go, I got to go to church for an hour and a half or 2 hours, dang. And if the pastor goes 30 seconds over 30 minutes, I'm leaving this church because I'm offended. But rather, because we start spending time with the Most High God, that coming to church is being with the bride. And being with the bride means, man, I've been reading and studying about this week before I even knew we were going to do it, and I'm excited to be here. And when we leave, the conversation doesn't stop just there. It carries on to wherever we may go, whether that's somebody's house or to somebody's restaurant. I don't know. But how about we start serving the Lord? And how about we pursue being made in the image of the Christ and putting on the Christ mind, instead of saying, God, you got to be in the image of us. And when we do that, we only serve the God who has called us, because we are finite. He is infinite. He is eternal. We are created, and he is the creator. Anyway, I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later on. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, keep it respectful.